You worked with Leslie an awful lot. Mountain reformed after Felix, and a few times you put
Yeah.
out different records. But something you did do with Felix, with Felix and Ian Hunter and Mick Ronson, there was this two more legends as well. These names that we're throwing around that you're working with. You recorded an album with these guys, didn't you? But it didn't get released at the time. It did subsequently. But tell us about that period of time and what was happening and why that record with you four legends didn't get released.
Oh, yeah, that was keeping in mind that late 70s, right? We're just sort of like, what's going to happen now? The president of Electro Silent says, Cork, I love you and all that. The first record I put out on that one. And I wanted to get a lead singer. At the time, Mick Jones and I were working together with Leslie West Band.
Yeah.
And I played some of the songs that I was writing myself. And Mick says, get a lead singer. These songs are really strong. And I went looking here and there. And this is for my first album. So I felt that I didn't come up to the par. He did. He went out and got a lead singer and Hans Forner. I mean,
Yeah.
it took him a year to get a lead singer. Anyways, I'm digressing. What happens was the head of the company says, "Can you get a super band together?" We have, what's the guy's name that produced The Wall? A very famous producer from Canada. I can't think of his name. He was going to produce us. You'll think of it. We'll Google it.
Yeah.
The point is that I knew Ian really well. We got together, and Ian
Bob
says, "Yeah, man,
Ezrin.
good one. You
Bob
get
Ezrin.
behind the first curtain. You got it, Paul. Good for you." Bob Ezrin. Bob was going to produce it. I mean, it was going to be, and Ian says we get, at the time, um, Ian was in between millions, I guess, and he
Yeah.
had just he didn't have a deal, and so he figured, I go, yeah, this will be good. And we brought in Steve Hunter to play. We brought in Lee Michaels, if you believe it. I love
Okay.
Lee Michaels, but trouble is he smoked all his pot, went into Ian Hunter's piano, and it was a fallout on that. And we had Andy Fraser playing bass, who I
Ah,
loved him,
yeah.
great guy. So it was beginning to take shape. We even called the traffic. Come on, Steve Winwood. He was
What?
living in a tent. Yeah, we were calling. We said,
My
we got
word.
money. We got a record deal. Come on board. And at the time, and then what happened is the Rose came out with Bette Midler. We lost Steve Hunter. He was off to LA. All of a sudden, it started disintegrating to where, and Andy Fraser was going back to something, and it was. And we did record in this studio up in Briarcliff. And I'm trying to figure at that point, it was Ian and myself, and there was Felix that, doing basically nothing. I said, Felix, why don't you come in and just play bass? Don't worry about anything else. So we did. We went to the power station, the four of us, Mick Ronson, myself, and we recorded the basics. And then we took it to Woodstock, to Bearsville. Todd Rundgren came down, Paul Butterfield, and all of a sudden the music started. John Sebastian. It was fun. And of course, we had enough tie stick to go around for everybody at the time. We were up on the mountain there in Woodstock. And yeah, it was Eddie, who was Eddie Offord was on the board. It was great. And it was just developing. And then Ian got a deal with Steve Popovich. It's like at that band spurred. And at the time, I remember he says, can we get Mick Ronson to help us? I love Mick, but it's going to cost us a fortune. Turns out, Ian said, don't worry about it. Mick comes and he just blows it wide open, right? Comes in, the sweetest guy. And yeah, and then we go in the studio. Who's the guy? Velvet Underground. Who's the guy? The lead guy. I'm sorry,
Lou Reed.
trying to get not Lou Reed, the other guy,
Oh,
the real. I'm sorry about that, but there's a lot going in. Anyways, we were in the studio doing a lot of recording at the time, and Mick Rods, and we recorded a couple of tracks. And during that time, going into the '80s, it was kind of like the big, they called the band at the time on the mountain. There was no name. They just called Pompeii.
yeah.
It was like totally overdone. And I guess Ian got a record deal. I still had my record deal, but it was half finished. And Felix went off and I don't even know what happened, but it was fun. That was really just creative. We got in there and we were writing songs. Ian's a brilliant writer, and I loved his writing. I mean, he had stuff in his garbage in his basket, songs that were amazing. I play, Ships in the Night. I look at this. He said, oh, it's a fucking ballad, man. I'm a rocker. I'm a rocker. I don't want to put a ballad, fucking rock. I said, this is a hit. Sure enough, Barry Manilow picked up #1. I mean, this is in his garbage. Anyway, so the quite a time. That was the end of the 70s into the 80s. And at that time, the record company, they started, signing all the smaller bands, all the, I forget, new wave bands, Elvis Costello, and they started doing that. And at the time, it was difficult. It was difficult because it was the 80s and heavy rock was going out the back door. I did cut my hair. I tried to accommodate, the punk rock. I played CBGBs. Nobody noticed, but I played that with some bands. It was a lot of fun, but it was the city. I was in the city doing that. And that's during that time, I had this band called The Mix, who was produced by Jack Douglas, who did Aerosmith. And he loved the lead singer. I loved the album. We worked for 2-3 years with Lieber and Krebs, big management. And I'm trying to figure out, why am I talking about that? That segues back into Leslie coming out of rehab, sort of to speak, say, hey, Corky, you want to come out and play some shows? And I said, you know what? Yeah. So I went out. That's when the New Mountain started. And that's when Felix was suing us. I hope you're taking notes here, Paul.
Try my best.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so and that's, I'm sorry to say, that's when the tragedy with Felix and Gail happened.
Yeah.
So it was like everything was starting to turn around. Leslie and I put together what we could at the time, but when you have a guy like Felix, if I may say so on the show, certain people in a band are the mainstays. That's 0.0. Felix was able to work with Leslie. I was good, but I wasn't that good. And we brought in some people. Again, Mick Jones played with us. And that's when I sort of bailed. I sort of went out to do what I do. And it's in the book.
It's in the book. It is in the book.
Yeah, the book is Letters to Sarah.